What's happening, Performance Therapy Nation? This is Mike Quintons, your host of the On Cue Performance Therapy Podcast. I'm joined today by none other than Wayne Helms, who is a jack of all trades. My former wrestling coach, coaches some of the most elite wrestlers in the region, has a Krav Maga studio, company in Newtown Square, Edgemont Newtown Square, also does personal training. So he does it all as a real estate company, father to two lovely, beautiful children, and they're probably just as intense as he is. So welcome to the podcast, Wayne.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is cool. So Wayne has, just so the listeners kind of understand the dynamic here, Wayne's been a mentor to me in many different ways. It was my wrestling coach in high school. So anyone who's wrestled before knows that that your coach is going to see you in your lowest moments. They're going to see you in your highest moments. Hopefully there are high moments. But there's a different, I'm getting goosebumps talking about, there are different emotions that come with the sport of wrestling than any other sport, in my opinion. And as a coach, to go through that with high school athletes or even like children, that's different. Like you want to touch on what that experience was like for you and is like for you?
Well, to touch on what you said, like wrestling doesn't like build character, like everyone likes to say, it like reveals your character. Like, because when your high is high, you'll see if you're a jerk. And your low is low, we'll see if you're as tough as you think you are. And that's, you really know yourself. And that's why, like, a lot of wrestlers are very confident people because they've been through the ringer, and you have to do so much, like, self-reflection. Like, when you lose, you can't blame your coach. You can't blame the ref. Like losers do that. I don't allow my kids to do that. I don't allow myself to do that. Bad call, walk off the mat. But you have to like really look at yourself and figure out, hey, did I run enough? Did I lift enough? Did I drill enough? Is that guy just flat out better than me today? You know what I mean? Like we meet in a week from now, it could be a different story. So yeah, I like to say that more than anything else. Wrestling doesn't build character; it reveals who you are.
I love that line. Yeah, put that one in the show notes. That's great. And I couldn't agree with that more. I think you learn more about yourself in the sport of wrestling than any other sport, and that's probably your quote. So tell me about your experience as a wrestler. You grew up in a household with three boys?
Three boys, yep. Just like you.
Joel, yeah, I know. Jeez. God bless you. So what was that like, growing up in a house of three brothers? Where did you stand age-wise, and what was that like?
I'm the oldest. The next youngest is 2 years younger, and then my youngest brother is 7 years younger. Just typical rough and tumble, constantly beating each other up, running around with sticks, and getting into all kinds of trouble. Yeah, I mean, just the family boy stuff. You know what I mean?
How much time did you spend inside as a kid?
Oh, back in never. I mean, we only came home when we were hungry. My mom, to this day, she's still hearing stories about where we were on certain days and what we were doing, and a little embarrassed, and
So Wayne's again. I feel like a lot of our guests are. He's a Delco guy, so Upper Darby's finest right here. We had Coach Graham on. He's an Upper Darby guy.
Yeah, he was. I tried to get him to wrestle when I was at Upper Darby, and he was all footballed out. Couldn't get him.
Listen, it's turned out well for him. But yeah, so we've had some Upper Darby people. I'm sure there's more. I just can't think of off the top of my head. But so what about Upper Darby's different within Delco, right? So Delco is like a melting pot. You got all different demographics. What's different about about Upper Darby?
It is the toughest, most loyal community out there.
Wow.
It really is. I mean, again, going back to the business, we'll just touch on it real quick. When the economy hit in 2008, it was all my Upper Darby people. They heard I was having a $10 kettlebell and core class, and most of my people were Upper Darby people, not mainline people, where I was based in Bryn Mawr. And they came in droves. They were there loyal. They were there for a couple of years. It's just the neighborhood. You go back to the neighborhood bar, you walk in, you know everybody, and everybody knows you. And it's kind of a comfort. I mean, if you see that new movie, Last Call, that just came out.
I heard about it,
Yeah, it's an Upper Darby, St. Lawrence guy where I grew up, and we all know each other and congratulating each other, and I was like, we're watching it, It's just, that's just Upper Darby, man. It's a sidewalk, town on Pencrest. So kids can walk everywhere and go everywhere, and you just kind of group up and link up and fight and go to the party with each other. Like, just the way it was.
It is different. I will say. So I was born in Drexel Hill, Mason Avenue, and that's part of the Upper Darby School District, but not in Upper Darby, not far from it either, though. But it's all sidewalks. You walk everywhere. It's older schoolhouses. But your neighbor's name, how old their kids are, what their names are, And it was, I remember hanging out, like I think we moved out when I was like 7, but I had a group of like 5, 6 friends that we hung out with all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, you were born there, and if you would have stayed there at your age now, you'd still be friends with them.
I believe it.
I mean, my best friend from 5th grade, you know, early 20s, 30s, we just reconnected through Facebook, and God, we've been hanging out more than we did. I think we were in high school. You know what I mean? It's like it never stopped. It's like we're 6th grade middle schoolers again.
It's different. It's definitely a different. It's a definitely part. It's a different town in general, but within the melting pot of Delaware County, I would say it almost defines a lot of like the hard-nosed component of Delaware County. So I'm kind of jealous I didn't grow up there through my high school years. But all right, so I want to get into some wrestling talk with you. Would you say so? How old were you when you started wrestling? And then kind of talk me through like your passion of wrestling and how it evolved through the years.
Okay, I'll take it from the beginning. Parents got separated when I was going into 5th grade, and I was always rough and tumble and like looking for something. Day 1 of school, we go in and there's a flyer for judo, and I'm like, oh, that's so me. Like I got to do this. Took it to my mom. It was cheap enough, you know, single mother could get 2 boys signed up, and we did it. And we took right to it right at the beginning. And me being a bigger kid, I was always the demo boy, because I was big enough to get tossed around, and I just got my butt kicked by a black belt, you know. So a couple years into it, my instructor is going to retire, and he went to my mom and said, hey, everybody trains with me. Your 2 boys got it. Like there's like 30 kids, and my mom still remembers this, and she's like, your boys need to wrestle. Wayne's going to 7th grade. He needs to wrestle. So I went into wrestling. My brother followed me. Wrestled high school, college. Ended up winning a national title in Sambo, which is a blend of judo, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling. And I get asked to teach a course and start a Delaware boxing gym, because it was all boxing. It was like 1997. And, you know, MMA is getting big, and they wanted to add on a grappling component. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll teach it. And there's this old guy standing there watching me. And I'm like, okay, it's a little weird. He's doing some boxing workout. He comes back, he has a book underneath his hand. And he's watching my class, and he's like, hey, by any chance, is this you? And he flips the last judo class open. It's me and him arm in arm. It was my judo instructor, was now taking my Sambo class.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just teaching takedowns and, you know, some submissions, hold down, stuff like that. But just like right off the bat, I just really I like that everything was on me. If the harder I worked, the luckier I got. It also helped that we really liked our assistant wrestling coach. He just started a summer club, which was unheard of back then. And he's like, look, I want 5 guys. I'm just looking for 5 guys that want to wrestle, and I want to build a program around. I was like, hey, that's me again. Run me to the floor. He was ranked in the world as a biathlete, run, bike, run. And I mean, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would lift. I mean, I was 165 pounds in high school. He's a 25-year-old man. He weighed 165, but he's got that man strength. He's like, you're my partner. Yeah. I'm like, cool. He runs like lightning. He lifts like a ton. I'm like, he's like, whatever I put on the bar, you do. I'm like, okay, great. And then in the summertime, I was like, I had no partners. I just had this grown-ass man to like toss me around, and just, you know, the more I did, the more I loved it. And, you know, another little accolade that I'm proud of is, again, single mother. Yeah, your wrestling shoes were $20, and you wore them till they fell off your feet. And there was these cool sneakers called Purple Lights. Okay. They were purple, just like over purple and gold. I was like, I want those so bad. My mom's like, get out of here. You're not getting. So our wrestling coach goes, if you make every summer practice, lifting, running, wrestling, and go to camp, which I ended up paying for myself, he's like, I will buy you your wrestling shoes. So 2 years in a row, I was the only person to ever get those wrestling shoes. I mean, I was there at times he had overtime and didn't show up. And like the Marine Corps physical fitness guy was like, no, he was here. And I'm like in the parking lot, I'm running, man, I'm running, you know? And he's like, no, I'll get you credit, Mr. Snyder. He's like, I'll make sure you get credit. And yeah, just, I don't know, just I liked having control. I didn't like daddy ball in football, basketball, baseball. I really despised having a dad. So I was on my own. Again, like I said, the harder I worked, the luckier I got. We had wrestle-offs. You and I faced each other. You beat me that day. Okay, you get it. I win that day. I get it. And I thought it was the fairest thing in the world.
Yeah, so I'll touch on some of my experiences with you as you were my wrestling coach.
I have a good memory too.
Yeah, well, I got a few of them. Some good. Nah, they're all good. It's so Wayne's style of coaching was extremely regimented, from what I recall, and we had certain things that we did every practice, and they built on each other as we learned different techniques. And there were practicing or drilling those techniques, and then at the very end, it was always live. And I was fortunate enough to be wrestling with Steve Bear Resnick, and actually even Chucky Malloy sometimes. So I was like 135, 140, at least on when I weighed in. And those guys were a touch lighter, and I had Ray Lavoie in there too. We were all very good wrestlers.
Very good.
And they have all been wrestling since they were freaking in diapers. I only picked it up in 9th grade, so they would kick my ass. But I learned a lot about myself. And Wayne was like no mercy, like and that like again, like propelled me to like, okay, I can do this. And I would take down Bear like once, like, you know, a week.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, all right, I'm good. Like I'm getting better.
Yep.
So those types of things and the music, I've grown to like it now. But we used to listen to Ace of Base. We're talking about like hardcore wrestling, like sink or swim, and we're listening to Ace of Base as we're skipping around to warm up. And
you got to remember though, the coaches listen to the music. You guys are supposed to be wrestling. Like we would listen to what we like. And you got to remember Vinny would play like all kind of Italian classic hits and Frank Sinatra. So it wasn't nearly as bad as that. But yeah,
that's true.
I still get made fun of my music for it. I love it though.
We're like this big, like tough, badass upper Darby guy. Are we listening to Ace of Base? I just saw the sign just came on. What the heck? Are you kidding me? But it was intense though. Practice wasn't like there was no mercy. If Coach saw something, he would, Wayne would let you know. It was like awesome memories. Tough. I mean, I remember losing like 4 pounds of water. Like after practice, I'd weigh in. I'm like, damn, I just lost 4 pounds, and I banked on losing that 4 pounds when it came to weigh-ins.
I'll touch on that. So my 2 favorite memories of you is one. I guess I'll go funny first. Is you remember our 2 bounce wars?
Yes.
We would play, so as a down time, we would play 2 bounce because wrestlers can't play basketball. But if the ball bounces twice, we can usually shoot it from wherever it is. And me and you always ended up like against each other at the end.
Listen, and that's not saying a whole lot.
No, we suck. But the one thing, I still think of this all the time whenever I say it. You always just give me a hard time for banking it off the backboard, and you would talk trash where you had to be like, swoosh.
Swoosh, every time. Give me the finesse. He was like, I don't care how it gets in.
It's got to go in.
But yeah, that backboard was your best friend.
It saved me. And my other favorite memory, and I really think about this a lot, and it doesn't surprise me where you are now. Even though you weren't the best guy in the room, you were a strong leader off the bat. And when you didn't come back that following year, it hurt us dramatically. Like, we were like a wayward ship without you. And, again, just because you don't have to be the best at something to be the best leader. And you had that, like, natural older brother, whatever, dude, just shut up and do it, leadership. And guys respected you. They respected you because you weren't as good, but you fought. And whatever you said or did or however you handled yourself, it did go a long way in the room. It really did. And there was definitely a void. And to see what you're doing now and how you're doing it is not a surprise.
No, that means a lot to me, Wayne. I remember talking to you about, like, I'm not going to come back next year. And I remember, like, I don't know if I even told you this. I was sitting there, like, crying because that team and what you guys meant so much to me. And it was a young team because we had seniors that graduated, Waples and Lavoie, and then we didn't have a junior class.
Yeah, we were good to go. So we were a young, hungry team.
Super young and like a lot of firepower behind it. And I remember like having to make that decision. It was tough, and I knew. And this is I in some ways I regret it. I'll share this on the air. I don't mind. I knew to be where I wanted to be, and maybe this is poor thinking by a 15-year-old, that I would have to cut weight.
And that was not true at all.
That wasn't true. But what I had done was I was wrestling 140. I was 165 at football that year.
But that was like, again, you didn't cut weight. You just worked out and lost fat. Like correct. You were like a little pudge. You know what I mean?
I did. You're right. Because I remember I'd broken my arm going into the football season, so I couldn't really work out. I could run, but that's about it. And I remember coming back when we went right into football camp because we went away to Portugal that summer. I remember this so well. And I got through the season. I went with you, and like 165 turned to 150 like that. It was nothing.
But it was all good. Like it worked it off kind of weight kind of stuff. And you thought you were losing size for football,
right?
Which wasn't the case.
Correct.
We got 15-year-old head is tough to get through.
I'm with you 110%. And I remember getting free. So I remember going down to 140, and then Lavoie went down to 140 from 145, and I'm like, I'm not going to 145. Those guys are just. And anyone who knows wrestling knows that. Once you hit, like I say, like 140, 145, 155, or 152, at least those were the weights when I was wrestling.
Yep.
That's a different type of strength. Than your speed, quickness, and athleticism.
They're unbelievable.
You're right. So I knew I had to go down, and you supported me in it, and you helped me through all that. It was emotionally, it was important for me, and psychologically. But I remember having to get recertified at 135, so I hadn't eaten anything, and maybe ice chips and a piece of chicken. And then I go to see the doctor. I'm weighing at 136. He clears me. I come to practice, and I'm late, obviously. Like, the practice is ending, actually. And I hop on the bike. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't remember this.
This is great. I'm on the bike, and everyone's like, we're doing the live part of practice. and I'm like drained. I got nothing. I hadn't been that light in over a year, really. And practice ends, and I go to walk out with the rest of the team, and Wayne goes, no, we're not done yet.
Oh, I think I do remember this.
and Wayne worked me, and I missed practice, right? Like I had to get my.
I remember saying you owe the team.
I owe the
Not
team.
me.
And Wayne, I don't know if this is generous or not. You were probably like, I don't know, 245, maybe 250. That I remember, like, you had tree trunks. I was not taking you down. And I remember at one point, like, it was towards the end of our live session, and you literally just holding my head down, like, come on, this is all you got? Are you ready? Are you really that tired? Talking trash to me. But again, those experiences at the time, I walked out, I'm like, screw that guy. But I knew like I'm better as a result of that, and I knew like my next match I'm winning. I'm not losing that match.
Well, that's when he said it. And this will be a little something that, like, new coaches, young coaches. Like, I came from the Darby program where Drexel Raiders were like a top 100 team. We were getting fed these awesome kids. We were actually like losing the Hereford school, but man, we didn't rebuild there. We said we reloaded, and that's honestly, like, we had JV kids that would be 20 match winners on any other team. They couldn't break the second or third tier on our team to get into the varsity lineup. So I came from this like awesome pedigree, and like and I think I put a system in place that allowed us to win as much as we did there for as long as we did and do what we did. And when I came to Pencrest, I took it as a personal challenge. Like, that was my whole point. I was like, I need to prove to myself that I'm as good as I think I am. And I was like, you don't do that when you have a fine-tuned engine already. You just get in and you tune up. Like, again, even now, my athletes, I get two types of athletes. I get engines I'm tuning or engines I'm building. And going to Pencrest made me prove to myself I could build an engine and still win. Because we were the worst team my first year. By the fourth year, we lost 3 points for the team title. Plus, we had multiple state qualifiers. So, again, to coaches out there, I knew I had to change my tack, and my tack was, you guys had the reputation of being kind of soft over there.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I would agree with that. I think everyone on the team would agree with that Pencrest at the time was a soft wrestling program.
Yep, and I took a Vince Lombardi quote that, like, what is it? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. So I figured if I could get you guys in shape and give you guys mentally strong enough through physical fitness and really pushing you guys hard and like acting like, you can't hurt steel kind of thing, it would work. And I think that's the greatest achievement I think I had there, was everyone got more mentally tough. I mean, Wes Thompson, this kid was nothing, and he took like the number one guy I think in Southeastern Pennsylvania time from Chichester. He took him in like triple overtime, and it was the most heroic match I've ever seen. And he ended up losing, and I'm waking out because like, oh, coach, I'm like, I'm not mad, I'm elated like at what you become, like it was amazing to see this Chi kid had all this background and technique, and like Wes just overcame it with mental toughness and being like, I'm not losing today.
Yeah, the team was grittier because of you, without a doubt. I remember we had 2 days during winter break.
At Ridley Creek State Park.
Yeah, that. And then I remember running around the track, and we ran 4 miles, I think. Maybe it was 6. And I remember running them like 6:30, 7. And I've never run that fast, ever, even since. And I remember finishing those up, and then we went to practice. That was only like the warm up.
And you know where I got that from? I got it from our summer practices. Yeah. When I was when I was in high school, like I said, our coach was trying to throw. We would do a 5-6 mile run. After working all day, like I worked for the township, like throwing trash. So I worked from 7 to like 3:30, 4 o'clock, walking, throwing trash for the township. Then I'd run up to the high school, and he'd be like, "Get your shoes on, do a 5 mile run in the blazing heat, come back, do 2 or 3 stadiums, carries where he's talking trash. I'm like, you're telling me how awful I am, doing wheelbarrows." Going in, and all of a sudden, all these kids from all the schools are standing there for like Radnor. Back in the day, Radnor was good. Conestoga kids, Ridley kids, and they're standing there like, "Coach, like we're wiped out." He goes, "Yo, this is your house. This is your house. You get in and you wrestle these guys." But I didn't realize what he was doing. He was making us tired and gets better guys to just be more mentally tough. And like when the season hit, like we were barely hanging with these guys in summer club because we were so exhausted. But dude, the season came, we were smoking these guys like in the first minute. We're like, I see what you did there. And that's exactly what I did with you guys.
To the madness.
Yeah, it really is. Like you just gotta like believe in like I think too that nobody in that school or that program ever proved themselves they're as tough as and they could handle as what they could do, and you guys did it.
It was cool. You brought back, and we can just switch it up after this, but you brought back the Bell brothers.
Yes,
which was because they were good, like they were really good.
Well,
the one Evan had over 100 wins.
Yep, and state qualifier.
So bringing like the Pencrest guys
back to see if you guys could be something.
That was
cool. That wasn't by accident either. Yeah. Well, also Steve Bell was my coach, and I coached him up at Darby. So Mr. Bell, their uncle,
gotcha,
mentored me and helped me out. And to this day, he still does. So I knew bringing back Evan and Matt would like be like a beacon of light to you guys, and they could say to you guys, "Hey, we did this with less." Like, you know what I mean? That's exactly what they did. You know what I mean? They're like, "Come on, man! If we had this, we would have done so much better." And I knew that thing. And again, I'm an outsider coming in, so I had to get somebody to get me on the inside, and I knew those guys would. So I just back off and let them do their thing too. You know.
What's the number one intangible a wrestler needs to be successful? One intangible.
One intangible?
Yeah.
You got to be mentally tough. Like I mean, I just you know. Everything I tell my kids, like, you can't be soft in this game. Like, you can't, like, you get thrown to your back, you can't cry, you can't suffocate, you can't panic. You know, you can be losing by a lot. You got to get out there and just out tough the guy. You know, you got to brawl a little bit. You know.
Yep. No way, man. I agree with you. How many times have you seen a state champion come back the next year and not win states?
In Pennsylvania, like
all the time.
All the time. I mean, it's tough to get through this. It's tough enough to get through the state tournament in Pennsylvania. Again. I mean, you finish top 8 in Pennsylvania, you're top in the country.
Yep.
You know, and if you get to regions in Pennsylvania, you're still top 16, 15 in the country. Think about that. I mean, look at Vinny. Vinny had a 2-time New Mexico State champion. He went down to the Nationals and he smoked the guy. Vinny hadn't gotten out of districts at that point.
That's right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Tone, who wrestled by 171 while I was I think he went up a little bit higher than that.
Yep.
You know, as he got older. But that's a great example. So Pennsylvania, so people who are listening from out of state, if you're in state, you probably know this. PA is no joke with wrestling. I mean, Beast of the East is called Beast of the East for a reason, and they compete. Don't they have PA versus?
It's called the Dapper Dan. They take the best seniors in each weight class and then have them go against the best of the country. And Pennsylvania just won this year. You're gonna love this too. So they just had little kid states. Southeastern Pennsylvania just scored the most medals at the youth level in first, second, and third places, and most medal count amongst everyone in the state. And now these kids would just stay in it in this area. This would be like one of the best wrestling areas in the state. I mean, right now it's another interesting stat. District 11, just south of Pittsburgh, just qualified 17 people for the Division I Nationals. From one area in Pennsylvania, 17.
That's wild.
Wait, it gets wilder. The state of New Jersey qualified 19. So just one area in Pennsylvania outdid an entire state, or just did 2 less than the entire state. So that just goes to show you. And also our area here just got I just saw the stats, I might have posted it the other day, that like little kid wrestling is so strong in this area right now. They just don't get sucked up by like the easy side of lacrosse or football, because they're king around here too. Soccer even.
Sure.
This area is going to be like a beast.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about specialization a little bit. And I know we kind of touched on this off air, but so what's nice about this podcast, I get to talk to different like strength conditioning coaches and regular sports coaches. And I like diving into this topic because everyone has a little bit of a different perspective, but most of them go the same way, where they think that specialization shouldn't occur until a certain age, if it occurs at all. Do you have any take on specialization in wrestling? Because it's not, the problem with specialization is overuse, right? Like pitching or baseball, right? Football, it's tough to specialize in because you can't do it all year round, but there's other sports that specializing will cause overuse injuries, which then slow down progress. Wrestling, I wouldn't consider maybe it is an overuse sport in some ways, but like, do you feel like there's an overuse concern that would deter you from recommending specialization for anybody in wrestling?
Yeah, but totally different than what you're going with. I don't think it's the physical, I think it's the mental.
All right.
Wrestling is just such a mentally draining sport. Like, you think about it, like the second you hit the mat, you're competing. I mean, they just naturally wrestle with you. Oh, I can run faster than you. I can do more push-ups than you. Like, they're always like competing against each other. And then like, think of it like on the, micro version, like the tie-up. I'm trying to control the tie-up and beat your tie-up. That's it. Like, not even take you down. I'm trying to own the tie-up, and then from there, I got to own your leg and take you down. And I got to own you when you're down. Like, it's just so mentally draining. And I think that's where the burnout for wrestling comes more than anything else. If you feel like you're burnout, you know what I mean? But there's kids that, I can give you some examples too, but like, it's the passion. Like, if they really love it, like, Spencer Lee's of the world. I mean, this kid's been doing it all since forever, like year round, since he was 8 years old. I'm talking world, states, everything like on it. And I mean, despite 2 ACLs torn, he still wins a national title this year at Division I by a mile.
Right.
He had no knees, and the kid just loves it, and you can't stop him. So again, I don't see so much of a physical injury kind of thing. I see a mental thing.
That's interesting.
They just need to take a break. Yeah, I see more burnout than I see like a physical thing. Like, so even then you can like change gears and stay in the wrestling mode. Like come to my gym, have a wrestling mat here, go lift. Do you know what I mean? Just be near that mat for me. Just be like, it's there. It's haunting you a little bit, but go lift. Become the best lifter for the month of April. You know what I mean? Like, get whatever you can and then let it come. I have a kid right now. He was ranked #1 in the state. Just didn't have a good tournament. I'm taking 4th at the Keystone States, and I told him I trained his brother too, and I said I don't want to see you. Just Monday morning, I was like, I don't want to see you, and he's like, huh, what? I said I want to see you. I'm in his own garage. Like I'm like, you got to go.
Wayne never gives off.
Yeah.
Like you don't get off with Wayne.
I just saw some things with his body language, the way he competed, which wasn't him, and great kid. I mean, his skill set's unbelievable. And I was like, I don't want to see you. I said, go play baseball for the month of April. We'll touch base in May. And his brother was like, huh? I was like, yeah, I'm going to work with you just alone for now on. He needed it. The kid's in 7th grade, like 6th grade.
Would you have said that 10 years ago?
No, I was an idiot. No, that's not true. That's not. Well, yeah, I'm kind of an idiot, but I did have a rule because I was burned out. Because I dedicated years of my life. I didn't do seasons. I did years.
Correct. Yeah.
In my early 20s, I mean, it was a year. I think so the 2 times I took off would be April, the month of April. Like we all just needed it. Like I just need to go and see what my house looked like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like like wow, the sun really comes through nice that kind of day. And then like the last 2 weeks of August, we're all kind of burnt out, needed a break, and they were transitioning to school, and I was like, I need a break too. Those were just my 2 traditional breaks, that we would have. But like, again, we had like poor Upper Darby kids, and I had to give them the edge. They didn't have their father, so I figured if we worked harder, we worked longer, we did more, these kids would win, and it did. Like they didn't have, trainers weren't really so much a thing back then at that level. But they had dads that would take them all the tournaments. Dads would like work with them at wrestling. I was like, well, I'm your dad. I'm your big brother now. Like I'm the one that's going to take care of you. You know what I mean? Like you're my responsibility, because that's what's really different about wrestling too. Is that you see these guys all the time at the championships crying, like, "Oh, you lost the championship," like for basketball or football. And I was like, dude, get rid of your Gatorade tears, like Gatorade tears. Wrestling, it hurts every time because you have to own it that another human being just owns you. They took you off your feet, they put you on your back, they smothered you, and you couldn't get up and you couldn't breathe, and you're claustrophobic under there, and then you got to go and go, wow, that guy just whooped my ass.
You got to shake his hand.
You got to shake his hand too. Yeah, go shake his coach's hand. Usually his dad too, or patting him on the ass as he goes by. It's like, could you feel any worse about things?
You're right.
And that's the thing. Like I don't think nothing against other sports. It's just observation from the outside. I'm sure they care, but like you have to care every step of the way in wrestling the entire time, because you let your guard down a little bit, you're going to get smashed.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's it's a different breed of a person, and whether you said it's going to reveal you one way or another. All right, I want to. I got one more question on wrestling. I want to transition over to Krav. All right, cutting weight. What are your thoughts on that? I feel like a lot of parents listen to this podcast as well. What are your thoughts on wrestling and cutting weight? Do you feel like wrestling, at least in Pennsylvania, has taken the right steps, or wrestling as a whole has taken the right steps in counteracting that?
I absolutely hate it. I'm against it. I don't see the benefits of it, and I've not seen those come to me. So I'll give you a couple examples. So the kid I was working with now, he's #1 kid at the state at, I want to say 110. He's #1. And he comes to me and he's like, oh, I'm going to 100 or 99, whatever. I can't remember the exact weight of the little kid weight. I was like, why are you doing that? You own this. Like, you're the #1 guy. Like, guys are kind of for you. You're eating, you're happy, like, you're strong. Like, why do you do it? And I'm telling you, for like the last month, I didn't see the kid smile. Like when he came in, I told him I didn't want to see his face. I was like, oh, so you do smile. Like I haven't seen you smile in now a month, and you looked miserable, and like, you wanted to quit. And his mom's a friend of mine from high school, and his father, his sister was my friend from high school. So I got a connection to the family. So I can go hard at these guys anytime, and they're like, go for it, bro. They don't care. But like he didn't smile, and I think it got in his head. So weight cutting a lot of times gets in the kid's head because like, okay, you got to make weight. You wrestle, whether you win or lose, you got to come right off the mat, put your sweats on, keep that sweat going, and keep it going. And then your head's not in the match. You're not focusing on winning and losing. Like me personally, my biggest mistake was junior year. I went from 171 to 160. I never did a weight cut before. It was in my head so bad, and I ended up getting out of districts, but I could have done a lot better at 171. So the following year, I just left out of the story too. I wrestled 171. I would come into the weight room drinking a full Gatorade and a cookie bar, fully dressed, get on the scale, and just be 2 over.
And everyone hated him.
Hated me. And my partner, next week's weight class up, went to the semis of states. He wrestled 189. He would do the same thing. We'd like come skipping in like happy. Like that's where we needed to be. We needed to be eating, drinking, in a happier mode of mind. Focus on the match. Focus on your opponent. Now my brother Chris, different story. He had to cut a minimum of 7 pounds to give him like a chip on his shoulder, like to piss him off. Like he had to go with that little bit of anger and like chip on his shoulder. If you let him go at like 112, floating, 113, he wouldn't do as well. But like he would just cut weight, he'd get like angry, and he would just go wreck people. Like it is
that perspective where you're against it, which I think that's great. And I don't think that's common in wrestling for a coach to be like, oh, well, you should cut a little bit. But no, but your goal is like, get your butt in shape and you'll be fine.
Well, that's the thing. Like Pat Carr said, the thing that helped us out the most was you guys didn't realize we were doing like 2 hour something practices from November to December. What did I say in December? I said, after December, I'm dropping 10 minutes off each week, if not each practice. So by the end of the year, we were doing 35-minute practices. And like, I remember like Bear and Chuck are like 35 minutes. I'm like, Dad, that's all you need. Just go in there, drill, get your sweat in, get your weight down a little bit. And like, none of you guys could keep weight on at that point. You guys could not keep weight on. You guys were eating, drinking. And I mean, that's the best I've ever done to really sharpen the tip of the spear and have you guys peak at the right time. I mean, the plan just went really, really well. Chucky's freshman year when he went to States and won a medal, Bear went. We had 4 regions that year. Yeah. I mean, it was the plan worked. Yeah. And I think, that's the thing too I want to touch on with my kids now wrestling is I'm trying to create a plan for them. Because I talked to parent team and the kid that I trained, his father's like, go on Facebook, I see a tournament. Like, you want to go? Let's go. I think that's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. And I don't want to like own my kids. I'm like, you're going to do all this. But I want to have a plan. I want to have something that we're all working towards that they care about. Do you know what I mean? Like the ICWLs or Keystone States next year. That's our goal. So where's it quarterly, the next 4 tournaments quarterly that we can go to that will move us towards that goal and know, hey, we're going to train a little bit harder the week or two before this tournament, and then we're going to do 1 hour, 2 hours a week. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I want to have a plan for them. I want them to know they're going somewhere. Hey, you want to go this week? Like my wife sends me, I'm like, stop sending me things. No, we're not going to these things. Like competition's not good right now for them. I want them to develop.
And the reason for that is because physically you would want the wrestler to be in a specific type of condition in preparation for their competition.
At the high school level, absolutely. Okay, so go back to high school set. I was talking more for youth, but I'll touch on that too. Okay. At the high school level, yes. So what we did was summer training would start in May, June, July. We were training to get ready for the team camp. Team camp, we'd fall off. We'd change the workout again till about mid-September. Then we start our preseason training, more running, some plyos, stuff like that, Olympic lifts, and then we'd have the St. Mark's tournament down in Delaware, which was awesome. Yeah. The Lock Haven Matt Town at the end of October, which was like Super 32 and some other things. But these are my checkpoints, and it take me the season. So I had like 3 or 4 tournaments throughout the year to be like, what's right, what's wrong, what am I doing right in my coaching, what am I doing wrong in my coaching? He's not strong enough, he's not conditioned enough, you know what I mean? And you'll have this too. So early in my coaching career, I was the 3 note card guy. So I had one for each of my wrestlers in one pocket. So I had a note card for you for the tournament. It was like Mike Quinton's. He didn't do this, and then it was like same crap. You know what I mean? Like sure. Goes back in. He's making the same mistakes. Then I had team trends. So the entire team's making the same mistakes over and over. So I'd write that down, make a little note of where that was. And then, especially early in my career, Mr. Bell used to yell at me for this. I was like 19. I was like hungry. I would learn. If I perceived you as a good coach, I'd corner you in the coach's room or Matt's side. Like, hey, what do you guys do during the summer? What's your lifting program? Like, how many days a week are you going? Or like Mr. Bell would have to really grab me by the neck and pull me away. So I would take notes on what I perceived the good coaches to do. And I was like, I'm stealing this because I'm sorry. If you're in the training business, we're in a business of thieves.
You have to.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. And you called it stealing, and I know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
And I'll take it one step further and clarify. But like, it's anytime you have a mentor, or even if it's not a direct mentor, but we're constantly, I think, great coaches, especially coaches, do this. You're picking things from different coaches that you've learned from, yep. Or from people who have accomplished a lot. I mean, all of us do it in all of our lives. Like, oh, they're doing that with their extra time, or they took this course, or they got this degree, or even smaller things like they're exercising this much every day. And you take that with you. So, hell yeah, good for you.
So let me go back to that and touch on with the youth, because we were talking before we started. My kids are now wrestling, and I'm torn on so many things right now. Like, so many of the principles and things I thought were true or not, and whatnot it's crazy. But again, I want to make a plan for them because it'll justify to them why we're doing more or less. Like, hey, we have a tournament coming up. We should bump it up these 2 weeks. Dad, why aren't we going to practice this week? Well, we're not going this week because we have nothing coming up. So you don't need to go as hard in the off season. And what I saw, again, I think it's because of COVID, I have seen the biggest gap in wrestling in Pennsylvania I've ever seen. Because the kids that wrestled are parents that care and kids that wrestle. So these kids are tremendous. And then you got the kids who never start, and there was really no bell curve. It was wild. I mean, my son hadn't wrestled in a year and some change, and they needed him to jump into a tournament. And I was like, sure, he hasn't wrestled. And he's only 7, so we've been focusing more on development, let him just go through it. He did 5 matches. The first 2 didn't get out of the first 20 seconds. And then the next 3, he got tech, but at least made it to the end. Like, the abilities of these kids that stuck with it through COVID have just become unbelievably good. And there's not, very interesting. It really threw me through a loop. And I'm like, not only watching his matches, I'm observing everyone around. I'm like, man, these dads are in it, these moms are into it. They haven't stopped training. They found basements, they found, barns, they found everything to keep their kids training. And the problem is, not enough new kids are starting. And there's not that bell kid where like, hey, I'm a lacrosse player, but I'm gonna do this in the winter to stay in shape kind of thing. Like, that's a little sad. So it's either now, and society's pushing my decisions, like kind of keeping up with the Joneses over my own principles. And that's where I'm torn. Because like, hey, and I hate to say it like this, but everyone else is doing it. And if you don't kind of keep up with it, you will never actually ever catch up. Unfortunately, and I think that completely stinks.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge with it is, where do we want to be in the end?
Exactly.
Right?
What's our end goal?
So like, in baseball is a very simple analogy. Little League baseball was how I grew up, and if you were really good, you made the All-Star team and you played for another month, and that was it. Then fall ball came around, and now what I hear parents tell me is, well, spoke to the coach, and he said if I want to like make this team next spring, I should play on this fall ball team. And so it's like an if-then thing. And I'm like, but he's 11.
Right.
So what's the goal here? Like, do we want him to have fun right now? Does he want to do it? Of course he wants to do it. He loves baseball, or he loves wrestling. Of course he wants to do it. But what's the end goal? Well, if he wants to play in college, I want him to have the opportunity to
And here's the thing. You got a 7-year-old.
Right.
I got my own 7-year-old, and like, he's a knucklehead. And he tells me, and I'll give him credit, both my kids, we got to beg and plead with them to do everything. But come practice time, both their bags are packed and they're standing at the door. And that's not me and my wife at all. We have the beggar plate. They are ready to go every single time. They never say they don't want to go. And my wife takes them. I'm either here and they come here, or she takes them to club practice, or if it's Saturday, I can go take them. They're always ready to go. And I love that. But my wife is like making him do swimming. He doesn't like want to swim. He's like, I was saying, he just wants to do rough stuff, Dad. He thinks that Greco-Roman and freestyle are different than wrestling. We're like, no, that's still wrestling. Like, he's like, well, that's what I want to do,
Football's not rough enough for him.
It's not. Like, he wants nothing to do with anything else, and this is not us. And we're like telling him now, yes, you have to do something else. Like, you want a really good, well-rounded athlete. At 7 years old, he may not be the same at 12 and 14 and 18, and then. So it's too hard to say what the end goal is. It's not fair.
I agree with that.
I mean, think about where you were 4 years ago.
Well, I would say the simplest answer to that is, I want them to have the opportunity to make a choice.
Yep.
And what they want to do. Do they want to play in high school? Do they want to play in college? If they can have the choice, even better. But if I'm running my kid into the ground when he's 11, 12 years old, or if I allow my son or daughter to run themselves into the ground at 11, 12 years old, when I know that could be a potential, maybe I don't know it could be a potential thing, but I know they're not going to have the choice when they're 18 because they're going to be burned out.
But here's the thing, they don't have a choice, because so many kids in each of these sports are specializing so early that they are so far ahead. You better be resigned to the fact that, you may not be a starter. You may not be JV. You may not make the team. You better be resigned to be with your friends and have fun and enjoy the goods that sport offers, and not be the elite all-star, because really, like you said, the guys you wrestled were wrestling since diapers. You couldn't close the gap on them.
Right.
They made the choice early on. Their families did, and it just went. So it's like, it's society pushing my decisions more and what's best for them in what they're already talented at. You know what I mean? And you just don't know what you have. You don't know what you have till puberty.
That's a great point. Yeah. So keeping in tune with your kids and seeing how they feel, and keep physically and mentally, and making sure they're all, like tuned up, so to speak. Like, are they in tune? Are they operating the way they should be? Right.
Let me give you a little dad hack, a little coach hack. So we have practices here, very chill. I have like 12 youth wrestlers with me, and it's not cutthroat. It's just my clients have kids that wrestle, and they didn't have a wrestling season. Well, I got a mat, I got the skill. Let's get a club. So I've limited to 12. I can't take anymore, for obvious reasons. They're awesome, but they drive you nuts. So we started the club, and we're kind of keeping it chill. And their other club switched days. So now my kids do an hour with me, jump in the car, and do 2 hours at their other club. And they've been coming home exhausted, like tired. Like, they're just like, we're tired. Like, it was a lot. My wife watches person. They went live a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, They didn't really drill. So this was the first week of that. I was like, man, you know what? You guys did so good. And one thing they haven't had in COVID is to go to a restaurant. It's like, we're going to a restaurant and get whatever you want. So they got like milkshakes and cheeseburgers. I'm like, you keep going to practice. This will keep happening. So just find a way to keep a little bit of positive reinforcement, not have them sour on it. Know that they work hard, you will be rewarded is the overlying thing I try to convey. You guys busted your ass this week. You did what you asked. Let's go have a treat. And they were thrilled. They thought it was the best thing.
That's cool. I'll take that. I'm writing that one down. But no, that's what it's about. You know, you got to enjoy it too, right? You got to soak it up. It's not always all right. Back to the drawing board.
But it's also like I want my kids to understand the value of hard work. You work hard. You're conscientious. You stick with it. You do get a reward. A reward to a 9-year-old, 7-year-old is a milkshake, dude. Like
right?
Done. You know what I mean?
All right. So let's get into some Krav Maga. So what is Krav Maga?
Krav Maga is an Israeli self-defense system created in Israel from a Hungarian Jew during the 1930s. Ivy Lichtenfeld was a championship boxer and wrestler. And when the brown shirts came through the neighborhood, he realized that boxing and wrestling were great sports, but they were not combat street ready. They didn't deal with no weight classes, no sense of fairness, rock, stick, gun, multiple attackers. And he started hybriding a lot of other things. So they take from a lot of other things, but they make it a little bit more street ready. There's wrestling in there. There's boxing in there, kickboxing, Muay Thai, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, some groundwork, and some specialization striking, how to deal with multiple attackers, some weapon stuff since they do use it for the military. Knife attacks, are very prevalent, worldwide. We have the Second Amendment here, so they're not quite as much, but
Sure.
England, France, I mean, I can see it on our boards, for the KMG board, like they just get inundated with knife attacks worldwide.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
So what got you into Krav Maga?
Like we talked about before, my real estate business. I bought like 2 or 3 houses in 2 or 3 years and fixed them. 80% of the work I did myself, and 2 young kids. And I just kind of came home and I was like, I'm done. Like all I'm doing is working. Like I'm working on my training business. 8-10 hours a day. Then I'm going to weekends. I'm going to go fix up a property, look at a property, buy it, get people in there. And I just was like, man, I need something for me, or I'm going to go nuts. You know what I mean? So I was thinking like Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. And my wife's friend just went to this place. She's like, why don't you try Krav Maga? I looked into it. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Oh, his hours work. Let me give it a try. And I just took right to it, man. It was learning again. It was building a new skill set. I had done wrestling and judo and sambo. And I was like, and I coached all these years. And I wanted to be a student again. And I just was mentally burned out on grappling. You know what I mean? I didn't have any injuries. I just was mentally burned on grappling. I was like, let me learn striking. Let me learn how to kick and punch. And someone pulls my shirt, someone grabs your hair, what do you do? Like, how do you take care of your kids? Third-party protection kind of stuff. I was like, I just had 2 young kids, and I was like, well, my wrestling could get me killed at this point if I did something wrong, So it just interested me across the board, and I just took right to it. I was going to the Delco boxing gym a couple times a week. I was like, I finally found a passion. I found something for me. Put the phone down. It was no business. It was no work. It was just, man, hit the bags, get back in shape again, start feeling like a weapon again, and feeling capable, and honestly, I think it made me a better father, better businessman. I had something for me. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like I was constantly serving my clients, serving my family, as you should. But I'm not a softball guy. I'm not go to the bar guy. I'm not that's not me. Like I'm a workhorse. I like to work. I like to learn. I like to do things like this. So I just took right to it, and like everything else, I just poured myself into it to become the best that I could.
Do you think psychologically that's put you in a mud? Because I feel like you've mentioned more social emotional things and psychological things than you talked about how you felt more than like you mentioned, like I felt like a weapon again.
Yeah.
But I also mean how it cleared your head to be able to get you where you are.
Dude, you come into one of our classes and you learn striking, and then we pressure test you at the end. Your feet don't hit the floor between here and your house. Like, you know what I mean? Like I remember one of the jokes I had after class when I was a student, and I would man, my house could be on fire right now, and I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? I just was like, it just was all out of me. I just was drained. I was like, hey, whatever, man. Like, I feel great. You're cool. You know what I mean? They cut me off. You should have done that anyway. Like, it just was so relaxing. Like, all the stress was gone. Because you hit a bag for 2-3 minutes, and you get attacked, or you hit mitts, and you just put everything you got into it, full aggression, and you got nothing left. It's just everything's out of you, and you feel awesome,
So then the next level was being an instructor. So how did you get to that point?
I mean, being a coach, and I think that's what I'm born to do. I can't do anything else. If I was in an office and I could help out somebody else and teach them something, it's probably what I'd end up doing. You know what I mean? Once I know something, I want to share. I want to move it along. That's why I want to, do things like this. I want to help, mentor, and I like that role. I think I have good things to say as well. Sure. But they brought the instructor course to our home gym, and I was like, let's do it. And I already had the ability to speak and coach and program and layer and stuff like that. And the feedback I got from the coach was like, hey, sharpen up your technique. Your coaching's on point. You know what I mean? I had anybody criticize my coaching in 10 years. I just was running my business, and, the way I got feedback was, oh, you don't sign out with me anymore? I guess I didn't do the job. But now, like, you would do teaching a mini class to like your peers, and they would say one good thing, one bad thing. They would tell you, he said or something like that. See, and the instructor would wrap it up at the end, and I never had that kind of feel. I'm the only one standing with a notebook taking notes because no one had taken notes on me since I coached on Darby wrestling. You know what I mean?
Fascinating. Which
was like 15 years prior to that. Like, I love this. Everyone else is like, my feelings, like, you're hurting my. I thought I was better than this. It's like, no, I suck, and I want to get better. Like, I know what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? And these other guys, like, they took it personal.
You put the two worlds together.
Yeah.
Your previous experiences, how you were raised, and how you grew up, and how you coached, and all, everything, training to something you weren't familiar with. You took the role of a student, which, talk about vulnerable, like you were willing to go out there and say, yeah, like, pick on me. I get better.
It's crazy. I was excited.
Yeah.
I was excited because the last time I even took a course was like a USA Wrestling Silver level, like, where I got some feedback on coaching. Like, I didn't get any kind of coaching course. And I love that. And then actually someone to criticize what I was doing, or critique, I should say. I mean, it's still, Nick is a mentor of mine for Krav Maga. He was my first, instructor teacher. And, he would tell you, like, wrap this up, say this, do that, hand here, the hand there. I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'm coming, and I took a lot of that back to my training side, back to the sports, but back to my wrestling side, like, making it more systematic, it just helped improve everything.
I would say that all coaches actually are never only coaches. They're always students.
Not always, man. I mean, we're in the ego business too.
Oh, for sure.
But a lot of the trainers I see in coaches is their ego is so freaking big that you can't pierce it all. I think they're really good. And I'm not saying that I am one.
I got you.
But the really good ones seek out the criticism. They think they seek out the no men. You know what I mean? And like, no, you're not doing that right. No, that's not right. But with social media and you get on there and you get on your soapbox, and I'll just add that too. Like at Krav Maga, there's no competitions. We spar once a month here. We spar as a group, as a team, and we bring in professional fighters to help us out and stuff like that. But one thing I really didn't like was there was no humble in Krav Maga. So what I did was I picked myself up again, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting on my soapbox. I'm starting to think I'm as good as what I'm telling all my students are. Well, I'm going to go prove it. So I took up jiu-jitsu. And talk about humbling. You got this 130-pound, IT guy choking you out, getting up like it's no big deal, walking out with his skinny jeans on. I'm like, this is the humble pie I needed. You know what I mean? And it's made me more humble here, and it made me relate better to my students on what they're probably feeling, the fear, the anxiety, the not knowing, you know what I mean? And to be able to work through versus like, I'm instructor, why can't you do this?
That seems to be a theme of this podcast and speaking with you. And I don't know if we've ever got this deep into it, but you frequently seek out opportunities to be vulnerable and humble yourself, whether it's as a coach and then becoming the student again, or in the situation you're talking about now, just picking up something completely different than what you've done before. In business, even real estate, like respectfully, what classes have you taken on real estate before getting into it? And since, how many classes have you taken since? You know what I mean?
Well, let's back that up. How many classes did I take on being a trainer? Okay. Other than Westchester, which is any college is 15 years behind the current industry.
That's true.
So let's be real. I mean, I came out like, I'm going to help you take your blood pressure. The guy I was working for was like, you're joking, right? I'm like, well, Westchester said so. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't. They're always behind the times. So what I've done on all these is I'm a lot self-taught. Like if I really like something, I'm like one of those guys, I've got to become an expert. And the way I do it is I read. So I have a ton of real estate books, a ton of real estate podcasts. I just listen to all the time. I'm learning. I want to be able to sit down with the big guys and have a conversation with them and know my stuff. Yeah. So they know I'm not a fraud, because then they'll eat me alive. They'll take all my money. They'll take all my property. Like they will. They'll eat me up. So same thing in fighting and Krav Maga and wrestling. If I don't do the homework, I don't do the work, I will get my ass beat. And I don't like to lose. So I prepare, and I seek out better people than me. Like in the conversation we have, I'm not afraid to call you or hit back bounce something off your head. Like, you are my student, but guess what? You're better than me at this now. So cool. Let's go learn some more.
Yeah, amen. To me, that's what I'm looking for. It's refreshing. Like it like kind of gets me jazzed up. Like, all right, like I got to get better. And I'm the same way you are. Like if I'm in a car ride, like I got to be listening to something. Yeah. Whether it's scriptures or it's a podcast or it's something I'm not even familiar with that I want to learn more about.
I haven't listened to regular radio in years.
Same.
sports talk. Now that, I mean, years. I honestly have I'm like, my question I always ask myself, what can I do at this moment right now to move myself forward, move my business forward?
Yeah, pure. You're just always on gas. I'm the same way. I feel the same way about things.
Because I don't want to lose again. I'm in this world. I'm in these things, and I don't want someone to be like. I think the worst thing to be is like, oh, you're a fraud. Like you can't fight. You can't wrestle. Like you can't understand a real estate model. You don't understand a business model. And that was one of the things that was told to me early on was, yeah, you're a good trainer and coach, but you'll never get the business side. Dude, I went right down the street to Barnes & Noble's in Bryn Mawr. I walked the 4 or 5 blocks down, and I bought every book I thought was good on business and economy and budgeting. And like, yep, F you, dude. Here I come.
Good for you. That gets me jazzed up. That's awesome. What haven't I joking around? I'm like, you're like Mike Trout, Mickey Mantle, of every, like you've done all of it. You really have to this day. So the fact that you're still doing this and you're continuing to learn different things and new things, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, you have to. Like again, you have to adapt or die. Like, and again, I think I was told in business, if you're not growing and you become complacent, you're done.
You're toast.
Just quit. And I did for a time there when I was in Bryn Mawr. I was like, things were coasting, like real estate was good, and I was like, whoa. And I think that's what really drove me to Krav Maga and expand my business. Like, oh shit, like I'm happy, like I'm content right now. Like this is not good. Like I got to find some new challenge now and move forward. And I just dove into finding a larger facility, new skill set, new audience. You know what I mean? You got to get them a challenge. And I'll just share one little thing I really like is I use the coral reef method. In my head, like it's not just a method, it's just a thing that I think of. A coral reef has 2 sides. It has a bay side, it has an ocean side. Any idea where most of the life lives on a coral reef?
On the ocean side.
Why?
I have no idea. There's more salt on that side.
Or something. Now. You're kind of the waves crash into the coral reef and it forces it to grow every day. The bay side is placid and it's not forced to grow.
Yeah, I like that.
So I in my head too, I was saying I want to be the ocean side. I want things slamming into me to challenge me to grow, and that's how I take on everything that I do.
Amen. All right, I did write this down. I feel like I'm like, all right, I'm good. I want to go do work out or something. No, for real. So, like the future for wrestling. I know we transitioned to Krav a little bit, but
yep.
I want to know about future for you personally and geared towards wrestling, and then also kind of another direction in Krav. So the future for wrestling, not in the Olympics anymore. Is
no? They tried to get up, but no, it's still on. Thank God.
Right. Like so, and I know you talked about specialization is a threat to it. How do you see the future of wrestling going? Like, what's cool? I think it's on ESPN. And ESPN kind of dictates like what's in and out right now, unfortunately. Like Big Ten championships were on. I mean, I was glued to it. I mean, you were like,
dude, I had the phone, the iPad, the TV. I was like, it was like 3 rings. It was like my holiday.
People do that with NCAA, like March Madness, and you have it.
The only sports in my house are wrestling and MMA. I mean, I'm not like, I got to sort of watch the Phillies game, I know, for 160 times a year. But those are like holidays in my house. And then all the wrestling coaches in the area get together at Barnaby's for the finals. And it's like 50 dudes from the area, like whether you're a coach, wrestler, we're just all screaming at the TV. Everyone's quiet during the matches. It's kind of cool. The direction of sport for myself, coaching-wise? I'm content right now, super content in that I like my youth club. And I'm going to try to take a model from the other areas of the state is I have a group of kids, they're all within a couple of years of themselves. I know their parents real well. When I've talked to them, I want to see me carry them all the way through.
That's cool.
As a group, you know what I mean? Because they're all like within a year or two of each other. And there's only 10 or 12 of them and be bonded together and see if we can carry them through to success. That's just where I am with this. I like my individual. I have 2 private training clients that I work with. They just fell in my lap through friendships. People knew me. One's a former client. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not like really gun-ho on getting them, but if it comes to me, I'll work with them. And I love my wrestlers. You know that. I take care of my guys.
For sure.
And what was your question about Krav?
Yeah, so the future direction of Krav in terms of training and what you do with, in terms of the training that you do with your client.
I think the world's getting crazy. Yeah. The crazier. People are starting to realize they can't handle themselves as well as they can, and that's what I'm really starting to hear from all walks of life. I mean, some guys you would never think would buy a gun and bought a gun. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I literally had clients during COVID with all this going on call me from being in the line of the gun store, like I need to buy a gun. But I feel like self-defense comes in many forms. This is what I say here. Number 1, physical fitness. That makes you less likely to be attacked, be able to handle yourself, and it deals with all stresses.
Yep.
Number 2 is combatives. I don't say a specific style because whatever works for you. Combatives to me is Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, combatives. Be able to handle yourself. 3 is medical, and that's the big thing is having medical, be able to apply a tourniquet to yourself or pack a wound or for someone else. That's also self-defense, and people overlook that.
Sure.
Next is legal. You got to know the laws in your area and in your state on what you can do on use of force for a civilian, both with a weapon and not a weapon. I mean, if I get into a scrap with somebody and they find out what I do, it's not going to be good. I got to be within the law and not go over the law. And then finally, for me, if you do, the final one is firearms. And not only are they in order of I think you should do them in, because each one helps the next one, but it's also what you can do daily. Daily, you can work on your fitness. Daily, you can work on your combatives. Daily, you can work on medical. Daily, you can work on legal. I mean, get to the range with these prices nowadays. Like, you can't. So, again, and I go back and forth with a lot of gun guys. Like, I'll just shoot them. Like, no, you won't, dude. There's guys like us that can take them off you. You know what I mean? Like there's things that can happen that you can't just shoot people. And what if you kill an innocent? When you could have done something through your fitness or your combatives or your legal knowledge. You know, you could have avoided all the gun situation if possible. Not always. There's always times that may be number one, but that's the way I view self-defense here, and that's the way that I run things.
Yeah, that's it. You gotta have a plan B.
C, D, F, G, all the way right on down, man.
Cool, man. This has been awesome. Is there anything else that you want to touch on, or you feel like you want to discuss?
Nah, man, we could do this for hours.
We could do this.
We could really go Joe Rogan on this one.
We really could. All right, how can our audience, our listeners, get in touch with you?
I am in Newtown Square at Elite Krav Maga Training and Fitness in Newtown Square. Website is the same name. Facebook, Instagram, it's all the same. Just look up Wayne Helms, send me a message, and we can get you guys going on anything you want to do.
Sweet, awesome. So that'll all be in the show notes. That's a wrap.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Cool.
That was fun.
That was dope, man. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry we ran late.
It's okay. I got nothing to come in.
I'm just gonna let this run, but.
I'm waiting outside. Jeez, I'm sorry. Jeez.
Oh yeah. I knew we'd bug them on.
Oh,
You're good.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, cool.
And then I just have to take your picture once you let them in.
All right.
You guys are good.
Oh.
Where do you want us?
Right here's good. I like the
USA Wrestling.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
No.
We ran long.
My fault.
No, that was awesome. I was hoping I could have caught you for a little longer. We could have done a 2-parter, but
Yeah.
I'm down to do another one whenever. I gotta. Melanie's got to be somewhere at 6:30, so it's probably about 25 minutes in. But I would love to do it round 2.
this is gonna happen. If not, we just use the phone.
Yeah, cool. That was awesome, man. Great job. Seriously, I know that's you're yeah, no shit, but that's fun. Seriously, a lot of people. I've had some guests on that struggle through it.
I know you. We've sat at lunch.